Hello BookTube, welcome back to the channel. Now, today is Sunday and I have not made much book-related content recently, or less than I would have liked. So I thought I would do a little Friday Read style weekly wrap-up, but it is Sunday. So I was thinking I'd divide it up into the traditional week, Monday to Sunday, and talk about what I read in those 7 days. I don't know if any of you people like the beginning of the week to start on Sunday. I think that's abominable, and I've never subscribed to it. If you do, that's okay. It's okay. You're wrong, but that's okay. So before I actually talk about the books I read from Monday to Sunday, I wanted to just chat a little bit about The Anglo-Saxons by Mark Morris. I read this last week. I finished it last weekend, so it doesn't count for this week. But it was part of my 1066 reading project to read tons of books about the events of 1066 and William of Normandy conquering Anglo-Saxon England. So I've read a few books on the actual conquest itself, and I've read some biographies of like outside figures. So now I wanted to try and go to the very beginning of who the Anglo-Saxons themselves were. And this is a tough job to do for a writer, historian, to cover 700 years of history almost in 400 pages. This book is 408 pages, though it is thick. I think the pages might just be thick, but yeah, I really loved this book. It's from 2021. It's I think it's Mark Morris's most recent publication. He has a book on the Norman conquest itself. He has a biography actually of Edward I of England, which I have not read, but that was the first encounter I had with him used. So I just wanted to recommend The Anglo-Saxons. I think Morris does a great job of introducing you to the storied history of Anglo-Saxon culture in England, how the Germanic tribes invaded following the fall of Rome, and how they developed into little kingdoms and then large kingdoms, and up into the Alfred the Great era, where kings, mostly of the province of Wessex, started to expand their power and become king of all the Anglo-Saxons. And that's where we are seen in the 11th century when Duke William of Normandy in France, across the English Channel, comes to England and defeats King Harold Godwinson, who's king of all the English, in battle. So this is a great book. I don't know if there's any issues with more specific historians, but Morris seems like a pretty good historian himself, and he's a good writer as well. So The Anglo-Saxons is awesome if you are a history person and want to learn more. So that's not even what I read this week, but wanted to talk about it. Okay. We're going to the iPad already because I gave this book to my mother right after I finished it because I liked it so much. And of course, we're talking about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Piranesi is a 2020 like fantasy-ish novel. It's quite short, and it follows the journals of this person named Piranesi, who is living in this vast, infinite house, kind of Borges-esque, where It's full of just large hallways and vestibules, just ever expansive. And there's 3 layers in the house. Like the top layer is clouds, the middle layer is middle, and the bottom layer is ocean. And every so often, the oceans flood throughout the house and destroy or clean up the vestibules. And Piranesi is this kind of naive little guardian of the house, and he has a nice existence, just kind of surviving and admiring all the statues that are strewn throughout the house. But the story starts to develop as we learn more about the house and more about the only other person who shares this huge world with Piranesi. It's a character called the Other, who's always dressed in a suit and who is on a quest for knowledge. And Piranesi aids the Other in the quest for knowledge. And as that goes along, there's stuff that goes down. And I thought it was such a charming little novel. It was really sweet and powerful, and I know it's incredibly popular, so I'm not gonna speak that much on it, but just know that if you haven't tried Piranesi, you should. I think it's great. And if you are a little put off by the first few pages where it's kind of obtuse, it's confusing, the Susanna Clarke just kind of goes right into the labyrinthian geography of the house without any exposition or anything. So it can be a little confusing. Push through the first couple pages. You don't have to locate every individual site that she talks about in the house. So yeah, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. All right, next up is, I read this in an e-arc for W.W. Norton and Company. I do a little bit of reviewing on the side on NetGalley. So this is a book coming out in September from W.W. Norton. Jeez. It's called Sex Beyond Yes by Quil Kukla. Pleasure and agency for everyone. And I really shouldn't have requested this one. I can't see why I would have enjoyed it. And I did not enjoy it. It's basically a book about how consent in sex is no longer like the baseline for sex. Kukla is saying that everybody should have pleasure all the time, and we should teach children to maximize their pleasure whenever they want. And I just thought that this book was flawed from the beginning. I really didn't like it. Kukla is supposed to be an professor of analytic philosophy at Georgetown University, but those didn't seem like her credentials in the writing style and the ideas of the book. It seemed more based off of her status as a attender of kinky sex parties. That's more in line with how the book felt as a piece of literature. So I didn't like this at all. But I will be requesting books that appeal to me more in the future, not this one. So that's a little ebook. All right, got 2 more books to talk about. I just finished this yesterday. The Catcher in the Rye by The Catcher. It's so white. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, with the classic little brown books back cover. It's from 1951, I think. I mean, it's one of the most popular books ever in America. I haven't read it since high school, but I have read a lot of J.D. Salinger since then. I've read 9 Stories twice, his short story collection. And then last year, I think in March, I read Franny and Zoe, which is a collection of 2 novellas, one called Franny, one called Zoe. And I just really like Salinger's writing style, the way he creates these like depressed characters, these aimless characters who are either intellectuals or pseudo intellectuals, and I forgot how sad Catcher in the Rye is. I remembered it was about Holden Caulfield. It was like, you guys are all phonies, blah blah blah. But yeah, this is just a sad look at an aimless, wandering teenager who's. It seems like he wants to do the right thing, but he just is kind of insufferable. He claims that everybody is fake and phony and stupid, but when you actually see Holden interact with other people, like, he never listens. He doesn't listen to other people. He doesn't actually speak intelligently. He's kind of a bum. But yeah, it's an important look at like the alienated teenager kind of trope, and it was one of the first ones to do it. There's a reason why Salinger is still so widespread in America. So if you haven't read this since high school, it's short. Come on, read it again. Read more Salinger. I reread this mainly because I found this at Goodwill. It's one of the many J.D. Salinger biographies. This is by David Shields and Shane Salerno. If you have read this, or you know about it, can you let me know if it's good or not? I'm planning to read it soon, actually, because I'm just a Salinger fan and I want to know more about him. I know he was a real recluse, at least literarily. I don't think he published anything after the 1950s, and yet he died in 2010. So that was like 50 years of writing. Apparently he didn't stop writing, so it was 50 years of writing that he just never published. So I think he's an interesting character, or human character. But yeah, so Catcher in the Rye was the second to last book. The last book I read was from my Doubleday complete Sherlock Holmes. I read The Sign of Four by Arthur Conan Doyle, obviously. But The Sign of Four is the second Sherlock Holmes novel, the second Sherlock Holmes work by Doyle. And it was published in 1890, which is 3 years after A Study in Scarlet, which is the first novel, in 1887. And The Sign of Four it wasn't very long. In my edition, it was like 60 pages or something, but these are big, large pages with small text. I think the Penguin Classic is probably 130 pages or so. Not a long story at all, but it seems like the Sherlock Holmes novels are just a little too long. And I didn't notice that in Study in Scarlet, other than the weird aside to Mormon, Utah. But it's definitely more apparent in The Sign of Four, where we hardly even get any Sherlock Holmes sleuthing going on. Holmes barely does anything other than cocaine in this novel. It's mostly people just telling stories, the mystery of the book is there's a Raj's like Indian Raj, a Raj's treasure in India that was found by some guys, and then two British soldiers actually commandeer the treasure and bring it back to England, and one of them dies immediately under mysterious circumstances, and the other, he is back in England, and then he dies a few years later, and that guy's sons have the treasure like stolen from them. So Holmes and Watson are tasked with trying to figure out where the treasure is, who killed the people, and what's the deal with the sign of four, which is a signature that was left on the dead body of one of the English soldiers. So that was probably a crappy explanation, but I still liked the Holmes and Watson dynamic, even if the rest of the story was just people telling tales and whatnot, sitting in drawing rooms just chatting. There was a little bit of action. But I've since started the third book of Sherlock Holmes, which is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and it's a bunch of short stories. And Holmes works much better in that format. There's a lot less room for Arthur Conan Doyle to just make up backstories for people, like dozens of pages of backstories. Now he's just kind of locked in, and I think the adventures, the short stories, are better so far. But I'm not done with that collection, so that might be in next week's video. So, anyways, that's a little bit of what I read this week, and yeah, happy Sunday. I always forget to tell people this. I always put my email in the description if you want to email me. I like to chat about books outside of YouTube as well, so email is good. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you're reading some good books. If you are reading some good books, do let me know in the comments if you have any recommendations. And until the next time, I'll see you later.